Sand dunes 100 meters tall, advancing year after year, burying a national railway faster than crews could clear the tracks. The Tanger Desert was swallowing everything, and nothing seemed big enough to stop it. Then China buried billions of straw bundles into the dead sand in a simple checkerboard pattern. What happened next turned one of the most hopeless landscapes on Earth into something scientists still struggle to believe. Trains thundered across northern China carrying coal, grain, and the promise of connection between distant cities. But in the Tanger Desert, the desert itself fought back. Each morning, rail workers stared down a new disaster, tracks lost beneath waves of sand, dunes rising like silent giants overnight. Some towers of sand reached 100 meters taller than a 30-story building. The wind did not care about schedules or supply chains. It howled across the desert, tearing at the rails, hurling sand with enough force to bury an entire train line in hours. In 1958, the Shapotou to Lanzhou Railway was barely open when the first crisis hit. 11 times in that first year, sand buried the tracks so deeply that trains had to stop, sometimes for days. Crews armed with nothing but shovels and their own stamina fought to dig out the rails, only to see the dunes roll back in before the last shovelful was tossed aside. The railway was supposed to be a lifeline for the country's industrial heartland, a 990-kilometer artery crossing the desert 6 times, linking the coal fields of Inner Mongolia to the factories of Gansu. Instead, it became a battleground. Every blockage meant stranded freight, empty shelves, and mounting losses. The cost was not just measured in yuan or hours lost, but in the growing fear that the desert would win. The scale of the threat was staggering. Soviet engineers had warned that the line could be swallowed within 30 years. Now, that prediction seemed optimistic. Dunes moved several meters each year, their advance relentless and unpredictable. Some days, the sand covered the rails so completely that only the faint outline of the track remained, like a scar across an endless sea. Local workers described the feeling of waking up to find the rails gone, vanished under a fresh tide of sand. It was as if the earth itself was erasing their work, night after night. No machine could keep pace. Bulldozers, trucks, and human hands all failed to hold back the moving dunes. The Ministry of Railways declared a national emergency. Every missed train, every buried section of track sent ripples through the economy. Factories waited for raw materials that never arrived. Farmers watched their harvests rot, unable to reach distant markets. The desert was not just a backdrop. It was the antagonist, a force so vast and indifferent that the very idea of fighting it seemed absurd. Yet in the shadow of this crisis, a question hung in the air. If nothing could stop the sand, what could? The search for answers began, not in high-tech labs or with massive machines, but with a desperate need for something, anything, that might hold the desert at bay. The stakes could not have been higher. The next move would determine whether the railway and the communities it served would survive or be buried for good. The answer arrived in the most unlikely form: bundles of straw, arranged by hand in a perfect grid, stretching out across the sand like a giant checkerboard. Not a high-tech device, not a concrete wall, just wheat straw, bundled and half buried, 1 meter apart in every direction. The idea sounded almost laughable. How could something so ordinary stand up to dunes that swallowed entire trains? But with the railway paralyzed and no machine able to keep up, desperate minds turned to radical simplicity. The first experiment began in 1955 at the Shapotou Desert Research and Experiment Station, a remote outpost run by the Chinese Academy of Sciences. Zhang Jishan, the deputy director, walked the dunes with his team, searching for anything that could break the wind's grip on the sand. Their solution was to lay down straw in a 1 meter by 1 meter grid, pressing each bundle into the surface until the desert looked stitched together by invisible hands. If the wind couldn't sweep across smooth sand, maybe it would lose its power to move the dunes. Skepticism was everywhere. Local workers, used to fighting sand with shovels, stared in disbelief at the first checkerboard plots. It seemed too easy, too fragile. But the scientists insisted on precision, every square exactly 1 meter wide, every bundle placed by hand and anchored deep enough that it wouldn't blow away. The first small plots looked like a strange patchwork quilt sewn into the desert floor. Then something unexpected happened. The wind slowed as it crossed the grid. Sand began to pile up inside the squares, not on the tracks. The bundles trapped moisture from the night air, holding it long enough for the surface to crust over. Within weeks, the checkerboards stood out as islands of calm in a sea of shifting dunes. Word spread quickly. By the late 1950s, teams of workers and technicians, farmers, railway crews, even students joined the effort. Straw was hauled in by train and truck, bundled in the fields after harvest, and laid down in a pattern that would eventually cover hundreds of square kilometers. The numbers defied belief. Billions of bundles, enough to stretch from Beijing to Berlin and back again, each one placed by hand, each square a tiny act of defiance against the desert. Yet for all its scale, the checkerboard remained almost absurdly simple. No electricity, no heavy machinery, just straw, sweat, and a grid that seemed to multiply endlessly toward the horizon. The desert looked just as dangerous as before, but now a silent experiment was underway. Would this patchwork of straw hold back the sands, or would it vanish beneath the next storm? The answer, if it came at all, would take years, and the stakes could not have been higher. Wind is invisible, but in the desert, it is a sculptor with a chisel made of sand. The checkerboard of straw didn't just slow the breeze, it nearly erased it. Field tests at Shapotou revealed something almost unbelievable. Inside those straw grids, surface wind speed dropped by up to 99%. That is not a rounding error. That is the difference between a storm that buries a railway and a gentle breath that barely stirs a grain. The secret was in the physics. Each square acted like a tiny wall, breaking up the wind's energy, forcing it to tumble and lose its power. Scientists measured the sheer velocity, the force needed to lift sand into the air. On bare dunes, a gust at 0.27 meters per second could send particles flying. But inside the checkerboard, it took 0.38 meters per second to budge a single grain. Suddenly, the same wind that had once moved dunes meters each year was barely strong enough to ruffle the surface. But the magic didn't stop with wind. The straw itself trapped moisture from fog and dew, holding it in place long enough for the sand to crust over. In a region where every drop counts, even a 0.6% rise in soil water content was a small miracle. Night after night, the grids caught enough moisture to tip the balance from lifeless to possible. For the first time, the desert's rules were being rewritten by wheat straw and stubborn hands. Scaling up this approach meant thinking like engineers, not just scientists. Hauling billions of bundles across hundreds of kilometers required a supply chain that rivaled any industrial project. Then came the next leap, brush net rope technology. Instead of tying each bundle by hand, machines wove straw into thick ropes, laying checkerboards at a speed that boosted efficiency by more than 60% and doubled the lifespan of each barrier. What started as a slow, hand-built experiment grew into a logistical feat, one that turned the impossible into routine. Yet even as the wind fell silent and the sand stilled, the biggest question remained. Could this fragile grid hold long enough for life to take root? The first signs were subtle. A thin green line threaded through the sand, blades of grass rising, where workers had pressed straw into checkerboard plots. At first, few believed it would hold. But the wind eased, the sand settled, and seeds that once vanished in storms now found shelter in the straw's grid. That first season, scientists recorded seed capture rates as high as 84% for larger grains, with even the smallest seeds clinging to life in the microclimate of each square. Over the years, the numbers grew impossible to ignore. Dune migration, once measured in meters, slowed to just half a meter per year. Vegetation cover surged from barely 2% to nearly 38% in just over a decade. Where there had been only shifting dunes, caragana, sea buckthorn, and wild grasses took root, binding the sand. Field teams tracked every square meter, watching as fragile straw grids became living soil. The most convincing evidence came from above. Decades of satellite images showed a dramatic change. The NDVI, a measure of plant life, rose from 0.08 in the 1970s to 0.2 by 2020, a 150% increase. What was once a barren scar now stretched as a green belt for kilometers. International agencies noticed. Reports to the United Nations Convention to Combat Desertification spotlighted China's results, and policymakers from Mongolia to Kenya began studying the checkerboard method. At $150 to $250 per hectare, the cost was a fraction of high-tech alternatives. For that, entire communities gained not just protection, but a future. What began as a last-ditch effort became a global case study. Today, what was once lifeless sand now supports green corridors visible from space. As deserts worldwide threaten more than 1 billion people, China's checkerboard grid proves that relentless human effort, layered straw by straw, can tip the balance. Sometimes the simplest ideas rewrite the fate of entire landscapes. What's our next impossible?